rangeline goes right throughout the North Island. So it starts up here on the east coast, as I said already, Coromandels, Kaimais, Mamakus, then on down through the Kaimanawas, where we have other wild horses here in New Zealand, and then on from there down through the Kawekas, Ruahinis, Taruas, and on down to the Rumatakas at the very, very bottom. But at this point here, we were crossing over though at the Mamakus. Of course, the Mamaku's named after that particular fern tree, the Mamaku, and something about 600 metres above sea level. It's only a gentle rise up, and then we'll drop down gently into Rotorua as well. But it's also up here we've got what's known as Fitzgerald Glade, and Fitzgerald Glade is where the tree canopy grows over the top of the road. And as we go through here though, you've got some of these Mamakus you can see up the right hand side there now. Actually you'll see them within Fitzgerald Glade, named after a gentleman named John Fitzgerald, who was first to survey the land in this particular area. But as we go into this glade here though, and looking out to your left and right hand side of the coach, look at the density of that native bush area. And it gives you an idea of what it was like back in earlier times of Marydom, during the land wars, when the Europeans were clearing land for farming, etc. How arduous it must have been back in those days. And of course it's with the density of that native bush area as well too. You can walk 40 metres into that forestry there and turn around a couple of times and then completely lose where you are. And that's the reason why we get a lot of people lost in the native bush areas around New Zealand, not because they turn around in circles all the time, just because of the density of the native bush. Mighty some probably do go around in circles, but however. Now also, we talked a bit about wildlife earlier on as well too now, in regards to the deer being introduced into New Zealand. The deer were introduced around the 1860s thereabouts, and mainly just released out of the native bush areas, okay? Now, we're talking about the 1930s though, a number of years later, these deer were starting to reach best proportions, and they were destroying, stripping all the native trees and all that sort of stuff, so doing a lot of damage in the state of forestry. So for that reason the government at that point ordered a large cull, in order to cull a lot of these deer off. But many years to follow though, somebody came up with the bright idea that we could maybe export the venison, the hide, the velvet, etc., make a few dollars out of it. So for that reason they then started hunting deer commercially here in New Zealand using helicopters and taking these deer out of these native bush areas in large quantities. However though, a little bit later on down the track, someone said, well, why do we go through all that sort of work? Why don't we just, an effort, why don't we just farm the deer? So deer farming started here in New Zealand around the 1970s. Today, we have over 5,200 deer farms in New Zealand, over 1.3 million farmed deer. Now, of course, the deer farms are generally quite characteristic with the high fencing, etc., as to contain the deer within the property, as opposed to the low fencing off to our left-hand side. Now, keep your eyes focused around the right-hand side as we come around this corner here. Hopefully you see some more deer in there as well, too. All going well. Oh, yep, perfect. Quite a few up here, actually. That's the right-hand side there. Now, here in New Zealand we farm four main varieties of the deer. We farm the red deer, wapiti, fallow and the Japanese silker. Now, of course, in regards to the harvesting of the velvet, they can't do it the first 4 years of the deer's life, but following that every year thereafter. And seeing those deer reminds me of many years ago when I used to drive coaches back in the 1980s. Not younger then, obviously. But I used to work for a company that called Contiki, you may have heard of it.